Today we're going to talk about arguably one of the most niche products on the market, the Yamaha Genos.
Hi, this is Ted with Alamo Music Center in beautiful downtown San Antonio, Texas.
And this is Zach Marr from Alamo Music. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications. This is our Alamo Sound Lab channel where we talk about all things music tech related. And today I'm here again with Ted from our piano channel. And we have a very interesting product here with us because it kind of exists in between the two channels. We weren't actually sure if does it belong on the piano channel? Does it belong on the tech channel? And after talking about it, we said, really, this is an ultra niche product. It could have its own YouTube channel to document how crazy complex this instrument is under the hood, but really it's more of a tech product. And it belongs in the category of arranger, which is kind of a niche genre and not necessarily considered, to me, I don't associate arranger keyboards with ultra high tech. I just don't, but there's a little bit to the history, and it all starts back again where synthesizers started with the organ industry. Ted, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Synths and organs, I think the merging point there is the beatbox. Organs in the 70s, there was always a corny guy playing that had like corny organ music, and they would play on it. That was a feature in organs so that people at home could learn and keep rhythms. Well then, McCartney recorded the song Bluebird and he had just a separate version you could plug in. I think you've got one back there, a beatbox or
one of those early,
You could buy one it was so popular, it's like, I already bought an organ years ago. They said an add-on unit, so you could just plug it in and pick your rhythms, rumba and cumbia.
Since we're an add-on and drum machines became an add-on to organs.
And then, when the advent of digital, what happens is the beatbox is like, let's get rid of that granny's corny sound and put some real drums in it. And so after X number of years, Yamaha, Alesis, you have these hot sounding drum machines with real samples in it. So what was once a solid state emulation of a sound became a real sample and more precision in controlling it and where you could place it in the song. And so when synths and digital pianos and then all these beatboxes and drum machines merged along with arpeggiators and sequencers, it just became Workstation.
And that was like the hottest in the 90s
and
the
2000s. In the 90s,
2000s.
you would actually spend a lot of money for a workstation that was a MIDI composite brain with no keys or nothing. It all had to be MIDI'd and plugged in, and that contained your album worth of materials.
Well, you were mentioning Kurzweil.
Kurzweil actually blew everyone out of the water with that first, and a lot of that was influenced because of Stevie Wonder said, you ought to build an instrument that is a workstation. And so some of his hits there in the 90s were all done on a single deal on a Kurzweil. I think it was a 250. And since then, there were other things that were more expensive than that at that time. But when Kurzweil came out with that, it was conceptually not just an instrument, not just a digital reproducer, but actually you can make a song and put it together. This thing here is so complicated. It's bold to call it an instrument. It has the best sounds in the world from any digital thing I've ever heard, in headphones and through cheap speakers. The sounds and then all the things you can do with it blows me away. It's like any sound you get from any movie in the last 2 years. It's like having THX, Skywalker Ranch, the Marvel Universe, all those sound effects, the orchestration, everything. You can produce a song, a whole album on this thing, but it doesn't come that quick. You got to kind of know what you're doing. And the first thing that you'll notice, and I think this should be the first in a series. We could probably go like 2 years, like season 2 of Genos expansion. There's so much you can do with this. Just exploring the sounds would take anyone at least a month if you spend 8 hours a day. And to really see like, okay, so I have the whole world at my fingertips. That's really what this is. Now what do you do? What they push is style. What do you want? Classical style, you want this? And there's so many different styles that you can throw a song together without really having to multi-track. And with all these different things they have that you can do breaks, you can use intro, ending as your breaks, and plus the regular breaks. You can put your own breaks on top. It's endless. This is the kind of thing, if you're a video guy, or a musician and they send you, here's our 30-second commercial, you know, truck month, and goes through here, you do all the sound on here. You know, whatever it is, it's like, you know, sad polar bears or dogs, you need some weepy music. You can get everything out of here, just like you're producing for a Disney film. And the quality, I mean, you can hear the guys bowing the instruments, you can hear breathing in the woodwinds, but in the headphones, the way they pan it, it's like, man, they're in the room.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, and it's interesting because the way I view it in my head is kind of this pathway, right? So there was the organ and all these different things that were explored. You got monosynth, then you got polysynths, then you wanted realism, right? So you got into digital. They got the DX, and you start getting. You want the quest for realism, so you sample it, and then you get computers powerful enough to synthesize it, and then you get higher quality samples, and all these different paths led to different branches of instrumentation. You get drum machines are a thing, analog, digital. There's appreciation for all of them. Same thing with organs. Organs were a workstation. The workstation thread got picked up in the 90s, the Rompler era, and then they kind of went away with the DAW, with everything going back into the computer. And what's interesting is this is kind of one of those threads that hasn't, you know, a lot of people went into the box. They went into the computer that for a while with workstations, computers were able to keep up with the demands of the musician, and there was you could get more power in an instrument by buying a piece of hardware. That changed at some point, and now there's a pushback because again, the quest for what is an instrument? Am I inspired? Not everybody loves to live inside a computer when they're composing, and this product, it's been out since 2017, and I feel like it's just not talked about that much because, again, I think it's one of these threads that isn't necessarily in vogue, but there's definitely a base of people that the Tyros, I think it came from Tyros, and Tyros for Yamaha is like their most cutting edge arranger. So CVPs, which is a piano product, which is kind of like a hybrid, ultra high-end digital piano that also has all the arranger capabilities. The Tyros and the Genos tend to be one step ahead of where the CVP line is. So this is apparently, if the past is a predictor of the future, this is an indication of where Yamaha is headed with arranger keyboards. It's always the most cutting edge, whatever's out at this part of the market. And so that's really where it fits. And I wanted to make this video with Ted to we'll probably make a series of them, but to talk about this kind of niche product. It's really pretty amazing, and
I just want to talk about some of the differences.
Yeah, tell us about it.
What blew me away is I've been around Yamaha products since the first Clavinova. That was in the late 80s. I owned one, and I've demoed them ever since then until I came to work here, 20 plus years, right? I sat down this thing, plugged in the headphones. It took me about 5 or 6 minutes to figure out how to change the sound. I've never had that problem with anything Yamaha. Not that it's a problem, but it's so simple, I couldn't use it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And they brag a lot about that on the screen when you read the advertising. Now I know why. That's where you do all your work. And I have only made it through getting the sounds. That's why I said this is the first in a series. But what's also amazing is you could spend 5 or 10 minutes looking at these extremely sophisticated connections they put in the back. Not only is it left and right, but they also have connections for the optional speakers with the subwoofer that comes with it.
Yeah.
But there's all the pro outlets. And plus there's a mic input that gives you the vocal harmonizer off of the CVP. And you can use that as part to trigger. And I think the whole compilation of this instrument, like you said, comes from the organs and going from 8-bit machines now 24-bit machines and getting the quality sounds. But the other thing is that it has to package up the ability to kind of do what we now call looping. And this was a holdover from way back when we were just playing out 48 measures. And so a lot of the details on how these keyboards work is like, yeah, it comes with a looper and you can use that for half your song. But if your song is A, B, and C put together, the looper part doesn't need to be part of that. So they've gotten more sophisticated with the ability to arrange.
Right.
Change tempo, flies, sounds on just like musicians can on a score. It's just kind of amazing. But the use of the thing, once you get into the sounds and all that, is just fascinating. The rhythms and the accompaniment part is worth checking out. They have some of the coolest put together grooves on here, and you can go in and cut out parts. Live, you have all these different mixers. Okay, so you can control all the sounds that are happening, and then you can assign all of these. So when you get to your organs, if you want drawbars, I mean, this is an amazing keyboard the way it's laid out. But the internal map, you've got to kind of get a picture for it. It's still laid out the way Yamaha lays it out. You know, there's voices, there's styles, and there's songs. And this part of it, with the exception of these assignable knobs, is almost identical to the PSR in the Clavinova series. So there isn't a whole lot to learn here. So I thought, this is cool. I came over here, and there's not, I mean, how do you go in and check? I mean, it gets confusing because it's so simple. You just touch that, and then you have pages of the acoustic piano. But this is the preset for the right voice. You have, look at all those voices you have access to, where most of them give you left and
So
right.
it's super deep.
It's so deep. It's 2 seasons worth of videos. I'm telling you.
Maybe we should have prepped more for this video, but we're gonna do some more content on it. But first, let's listen to it. Let's take a listen and wrap up with some thoughts.
Well, Zach, I went through and demoed some of the more, piano, electric piano. I did get a little bit of time into the strings and some of the brass, just so people can have an idea of the woodwinds and stuff like that. I didn't get into tons of details. I didn't put a song together. I don't even have a style down. Just showing off the sounds, because that is the step one. I mean, first touch is like, get to the sounds. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that it plays great. It's not a weighted, graded hammer or anything. It's just a synth action, but it reminds me of a DX7. It's got the same kind of touch response, a little bit more detail, but it plays great. It's going to take, if you're used to a heavy piano action, you just got to lighten up to enjoy it.
Well, it's interesting. I think you and I talked about this off camera, but this is such an interesting part of the Yamaha line, because it really is.
For them, it's a weird product.
It's cutting edge, and it's a very niche group of people. And what are you buying? You're buying the intellectual property and a great interface and good design, but you feel this thing, and it doesn't feel all that different than PSRA 5000 or like the $1,500 Arranger keyboards. It doesn't. And Ted said, man, it would really go a long way to make it weighty, to make it weigh 100 pounds, because people are like, oh, that's where the money, because it's $6,000, so it's expensive. But really, you're buying. I mean, you're buying a
production layout,
a production level instrument. It's like you said, you could do movie scores. You could be, if you're a professional musician and you do it for a living, or you're a hobbyist that just wants the best.
This is the thing you're looking for. This is the thing,
yeah. So that's really where it falls in the category. We'll probably do some additional videos unpacking its complexity, but we wanted to make this video today just to talk about it, because I still think it's relevant. They're still doing updates. It's still more cutting edge than the latest.
There's a whole world of guys that are like in a users group, and they're swapping their styles and stuff like that. It's amazing.
And it's more cutting edge than the CVP 800 series, which is ultra expensive. And so, but again, cutting edge Yamaha, we sell a lot of them, and they're really fantastic instruments. And so I just wanted to give some love to the Genos, because again, I've always been curious to play one and to hear it, and we got to do that today. So if you have any other comments, questions, or thoughts, leave them below. Would you like to see another video on this topic?
Let us know, because for sure I want to come back with at least a style groove, song A and song B, or A and have two different parts put together. Start with a riff and then go from there.
Well, thank you again for watching. If you want to talk to us more, find us at all-encompassing.com. Hit subscribe if you didn't already, and go make music.